She was 7 years old. Barefoot in October, she had asked the whole town for help. Nobody came. Then a stranger rode in on a tired horse, and she whispered the words that would save them both. Welcome to Shadow of the West. Subscribe and ring the bell for more legendary tales of love, courage, and the untamed frontier. The Colorado Territory in the autumn of 1874 was a land that tested everything it touched. Mountains rose like walls against the sky, beautiful and indifferent. Roads between towns were nothing more than suggestions carved into dirt, disappearing entirely when the rains came or the snow buried them beneath silence. The town of Cedar Falls sat in a narrow valley where two creeks met, and pines grew so thick that sunlight reached the ground only in scattered patches. A general store, a blacksmith, a small church with a cracked bell. Perhaps 40 families lived there, spread across the valley in cabins held together by determination and prayer. Into this place, on an October afternoon, when the aspens burned gold against the dark pines, rode a man named Silas Kane. He was 33 years old, lean and weathered, with eyes the color of creek water over dark stones. He rode a gray mare that was too thin and carried saddlebags that were too light. Everything about him suggested a man traveling away from something rather than toward it. He had been a ranch hand in Wyoming, a fence builder in Montana, a cattle driver on the long trail from Texas. He worked for men whose names he forgot the moment he collected his wages, and slept beneath stars that watched him without comment. His parents had died when he was 14. Fever took them both in the same week. No one thought to keep the boy. He learned that year that love was a temporary arrangement. He had not allowed himself to care about another human being since. Cedar Falls was supposed to be a brief stop. Water the horse, purchase supplies, move on by morning. The plan changed because of a girl. She was standing outside the general store, small, perhaps 7 years old, dark tangled hair falling across a face too thin for a child her age. Her dress was patched beyond recognition. Her feet were bare despite the October cold, but it was her eyes that stopped him. Enormous, dark brown, holding an expression no child should possess. The quiet composure of someone who has already learned that the world does not always respond to crying. Silas walked toward the store entrance. He did not intend to speak to her. "Please, sir." The voice was barely audible. A whisper carried on thin mountain air. He stopped, his hand on the door. "Please save my mother, sir." He turned. The girl stood in the same spot, hands clasped, bare feet on cold ground. Behind the composure in her eyes was something desperate and raw and so purely honest that it struck him in a place he thought he had sealed, shut years ago. "Where is your mother?" "She is in our cabin. She cannot get up. She has been lying down for many days." "Where is your father?" Her gaze dropped. "He went to find work in the mountains. He has not come back." "When did he leave?" "Before the leaves changed." 6 weeks. A man gone 6 weeks in this territory without returning had likely met one of the endings the mountains offered. "Have you asked anyone in town for help?" She nodded. "Mrs. Albright said she would come. She did not come. Mr. Thornton said, my mother should see the doctor. But we have no money. The preacher said he would pray." She paused, then added with a quietness that contained no bitterness, "Nobody came. He should have walked inside, bought his supplies, ridden on. He knelt down instead. Show me where she is." The cabin was 2 miles south of town. 1 room with a loft above. roof patched with bark and canvas, a garden planted but not tended in weeks, vegetables rotting on their stems. Inside, the air was stale and cold. The fire had gone out days ago. On a bed in the corner lay a woman, thin, pale with the grayness that illness paints across the living. Her breathing was shallow but steady. The girl took her mother's hand. "Mama." "I brought someone." The woman's eyes opened. Dark brown, clouded with fever. She looked at Silas in the doorway and something crossed her face he recognized. Shame, the particular shame of a person who has always managed alone and is now unable to manage at all. "I did not ask for anyone," she whispered. "I know," Silas said. "Your daughter did. Every instinct told him to leave. This was not his life. These were not his people. Caring was a door he had locked a long time ago." But the girl was looking at him with impossible trust, as if she had decided he was the answer to a prayer she was too young to properly form. He stepped inside. He built a fire, brought water from the creek, found dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, heated broth from the last dried meat in the pantry, and fed it to the woman with a spoon. The girl sat beside the bed watching. She did not speak. She did not cry. She simply watched, and her watching felt like both judgment and blessing. He rode to town the next morning and used his last money to buy medicine. Mrs. Albright asked who it was for. He told her. She looked away. "I meant to go out there," she said. "Meaning is not the same as going," Silas replied. He returned to the cabin. He administered the medicine. He chopped wood. He fixed the crooked door. He cleared the rotting garden and turned the soil. The woman's name was Nora Sheridan. She told him on the third day, when the fever broke enough for her to sit up. "Nora, and my daughter is Ellie. Silas, you do not have to stay. I know. Then, why are you still here?" He looked at the fire he had built, the door he had straightened, the girl drawing shapes in the dust on the floor, humming a melody with no name. "Because your daughter asked me to." Something shifted in Nora's expression, not gratitude, recognition, as if she saw in him the same thing he saw in her, a person who had been carrying weight alone for so long, they had forgotten what it felt like to set it down. He stayed through October, through November, through the first snowfall that sealed the roads and made leaving impractical, even if he had wanted to leave, which he discovered with quiet shock he did not. Nora recovered slowly. A few steps across the cabin, then to the porch, then to the well, each small victory marked by Ellie's smile, which grew wider as her mother grew stronger. Silas repaired everything. He patched the roof properly with wood. He built a second bed for Ellie. He constructed a shelf for the few books Nora owned, books she read aloud each evening, by firelight, with a voice that transformed the cold cabin into something Silas had not experienced since he was 14, a home. He did not name it that. He was not ready, but he felt it the way a man feels warmth after walking through snow, not with his mind, with something ancient that recognized safety, even when his thoughts refused to. Ellie followed him everywhere. She helped carry firewood, her small arms holding one log while he carried 6. She asked questions no adult had asked him in years: his favorite color, whether fish dreamed, why stars only came out at night when people needed them most during the day. He answered every question seriously, because she asked them seriously, and because her earnest curiosity was slowly dismantling walls he had spent 19 years building. One December evening, after Ellie had fallen asleep, Nora spoke from her chair. "Her father is not coming back. I knew by the second week. Men who find gold always send word." Silas stared at the fire. "I have been alone before," she continued. "I can be alone again. But Ellie cannot. She needs someone who stays." She looked at him across the firelight, not with demand, with offering, an invitation extended without pressure. "You do not have to stay, Silas. You keep saying that, because I need you to know that if you stay, it is because you chose to, not because a little girl asked you on a porch, not because winter trapped you, because you chose this." Silas looked at everything he had built: the straightened door, the patched roof, the shelf of books, the small bed where a girl who had saved her mother with 5 whispered words slept peacefully. He looked at Nora, the woman who had survived what would have ended most people, who asked nothing and received less, who now offered him something he had been running from since he was 14, a place to belong. "I was not a good man before I came here," he said quietly. "You were good enough to kneel when a child asked for help. That was not goodness. That was something I could not control. Perhaps that is what goodness is," she said. "The thing you cannot stop yourself from doing, even when everything tells you to walk away." The cabin held its breath. "I do not know how to stay," he finally said. "I have never stayed anywhere." Nora smiled. Not broadly, gently, the way dawn arrives, inevitable and soft and impossible to resist. "Then learn," she said. "We will teach you." He stayed. They married in the spring beside the creek, where water ran clear and aspens budded with new green. Ellie stood between them, holding both their hands. When the preacher asked if anyone objected, she said loudly, "Nobody better." Cedar Falls attended. Even Mrs. said loudly, "Nobody better." Cedar Falls attended. Albright, who brought bread and avoided Silas's eyes. The town absorbed them, the way frontier towns absorb everything. Slowly, without apology, years passed. Silas learned to stay. It was harder than any trail he had ridden, any fence he had built, any winter he had survived alone. Staying required vulnerability, the willingness to be needed, the terrifying acceptance that he now had something to lose. Ellie grew tall and fierce and kind. She never forgot the day on the porch. She told the story to her own children years later. "He did not save us because he was brave," she would say, dark eyes bright with memory. "He saved us because he was tired of being alone, and I was tired of being afraid. We rescued each other. The cabin still stands in that valley. The door hangs straight. The roof holds firm. The garden grows each spring without anyone remembering who planted the first seeds. And if you pass through Cedar Falls on an autumn afternoon, when aspens burn gold, and the air carries the first whisper of snow, you might hear the story, told quietly, the way the best stories are always told, about a girl who stood barefoot on cold ground and changed a man's life with 5 whispered words. "Please save my mother, sir." And a cowboy who gave the only honest answer he had. "Show me where she is." Some people spend their whole lives searching for home, riding from one horizon to the next, believing it exists somewhere beyond the next mountain. But Silas Kane learned what the frontier teaches everyone eventually. Home is not a place you find. It is a person you stop running from. And sometimes it begins with nothing more than a child's whisper and the courage to kneel down and listen.